Welcome in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. Good work, Sean. No one noticed. It's okay. I'm Jeff Parsox. White is alongside. We're happy to be with you as always. Well, Brady Kannon joining us momentarily, but we'll do our starting five to kick off the show as we always do, Alex. And we'll kick it off with number one, Game 5 tonight in Oklahoma City. Thunder look to take a 3-2 series lead. 4.5 behind us. There's some 4 in the market as well, Alex White.
In this series now, Thunder are $1.55 to complete the series. Mavs, if you like them, plus 135. Number 2, Boston looking to complete the gentleman's sweep over Cleveland here. If you like Boston tonight, you got to lay 15.5 points at home. Total on that one, 204.5.
No Karis LeVert, no Jared Allen, no Donovan Mitchell at morning shoot around today. It would be a shock if Allen plays. It would be very surprising if Mitchell plays. LeVert's the most likely, but what's the point here? The Cavs aren't winning the game anyway, and it'll be off to Cancun by the end of the night, more likely than not. Boston just, again, taking advantage of what's in front of them, looking to gentlemen sweep back-to-back teams that they very much have overmatched. Number 3, oh boy, after looking like the life was sucked out of them 2 nights ago, the Avs will have to try to avoid elimination tonight down in Dallas. That's going to be a 8 o'clock Eastern puck drop for that. If you want the Avs to come back in this series, they're plus 750, but it's going to be a hard task with the way that Ottinger has played in this series, Alex.
Yes, it is. 92.3 save percentage for Jake Ottinger. Dallas minus 140 in that game, total 6.5. Number 4, the LA Dodgers going for the sweep over San Francisco. Logan Webb gets the nod for the Giants. We don't know who is pitching yet for LA, but they are a minus 134 on the road. Total in that one, 7.5.
Then number 5, it leads in perfectly to who joins us momentarily. The PGA Championship gets rolling tomorrow morning in Louisville, Kentucky. Valhalla, the site. Scotty Scheffler, still your favorite, but a lot of money has come in on Rory McIlroy after his dominant performance last week in the final round, winning at Quail Hollow to Wells Fargo a week ago. And that's your starting 5 here on Sports by the Book. Now joining us, let's bring him right in. You get him on the tweets, a Las Vegas golfer. He's a man that you can see in a lot of spots right now. You see him on Sports Grid. You see his writing at PGAtour.com, golf.com, and a lot of other places. It's our guy, Brady Kannon, with us right now. Brady, thanks for hanging with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Jeff and Alex. Good to be with you. Of course, it was last month that we were here for the Masters, and now major number 2 of the season. Good to be back with you to talk about it.
Absolutely, Brady. And let's just start off. Let's just go to the 2 favorites on the board. I know you don't have either of them on your card, but Scotty Scheffler, of course, dominated at Augusta, has been the best player in the world now for an extended period of time. But here's Rory McIlroy, who's almost gone a whole decade without a major championship now, coming off his best performance in quite a while last week at Quail Hollow.
Yeah, that was an incredible performance. Wow. I mean, it doesn't seem like we've seen something like that out of Rory McIlroy in quite a while. It was impressive to watch. And, I think what some people need to realize, Xander Schauffele, who had the 54-hole lead, of course, 1 shot better than Rory McIlroy. I don't think he really went out and lost the tournament. He shot better than most people in the field that day, but rather Rory won it. He put his foot down and really should have shot 63 that day. He shot 65, doubled the last hole when it didn't matter a bit, but pretty tough to overcome a Sunday 63. I don't care what golf tournament you're at, especially a hard one like Quail Hollow and the Wells Fargo Championship. He was extremely impressive. But, you have to temper it a little bit. Rory is one of the very best players in the game the week before a major. Like you said, he has not won a major in a decade. Now, the last time he did win it was right here at Valhalla in Louisville, Kentucky in 2014. And interestingly enough, back in 2014, he came in off of 2 straight victories before he won that PGA championship. And once again this year, he comes in off of 2 straight victories. And you mentioned Scotty Scheffler. I don't really think there's going to be too much to the rust versus rest argument here. It's not uncommon for a player to take 3 weeks off, especially a star player on the PGA Tour. It's happened before. Now, all that being said, maybe he wasn't practicing as much. The fact is, Jeff, and I kind of relate this to an NFL season where maybe a team goes on a 5-game winning streak, and then they are forced to take their bye week. And a lot of times when they come out on the other side, they're not so successful. They're not able to keep that momentum going that they had prior to the pause in the schedule. And we know that for sure for Scotty. He was red hot, and then he had an interruption, the first child of his life. It's a momentous occasion, and congratulations to he and his wife. But the fact remains, it is an interruption to that red hot momentum. Whether he comes out, with not skipping a beat, or if he does have a little bit of a hitch coming out on the other side, that remains to be seen. I'm not betting on him, but if he comes out the first 2 days and maybe is not too far off the lead, or is in the lead, or so he's probably going to be. He'll have all my attention for in-game wagering, but I'm not going to play him pre-tournament because. First of all, there's a lot of guys in this field. This is the best field in golf. That title can no longer be given to the Players' Championship because you have the live players here, no amateurs. I know there's 20 golf club professionals in this field, but the other 136, there might be 80 guys that could win this week. And that's a lot of guys going against one man and Scotty Scheffler. And if he does have a blip in day one or day two, I don't want to be there with such a short price and a lot of money outlaid pre-tournament. So I'll wait to see what the verdict is on what this interruption has caused for Scotty and see if he's worthy of an in-game play.
Brady, before we get into everything you did play this week, just let's go about this golf course. Of course, this is the 4th time that Valhalla will have the PGA Championship. You mentioned it. The last time they had it was when Rory won back in 2014. They've also hosted a Ryder Cup here back in 2008 in American Victory then. Just what should we be looking for from this course here in Louisville this week?
Well, the PGA Championship, guys, I think has really in the last 10 years or so become a bombers major. We have seen a lot of big hitters contend and win this championship. Brooks Koepka 3 times, and we know he certainly qualifies as a bomber. So I think that's going to be the recipe for success once again. We saw it here in 2014. A couple of the guys at the top of the leaderboard, Phil Mickelson and Rory McIlroy. And if you look at the top 10 or 15 players on the leaderboard from 2014, they did a couple of things that stood out. They were great off the tee, a lot of distance. They ranked in the top 25 in distance off the tee that week. And they also had great putting weeks. You've got smaller than average, relatively flat bent grass greens. I think the winner will certainly have success in putting these greens. They're going to have to be long and straight off the tee. I think once again, this tournament will favor the longer hitters. And not only just because of the length of this and the setup of the golf course, but you've also had weather in the area. You've had a lot of rain in Louisville, Kentucky leading up to this. We might get it for a couple more days during the tournament. And that is also going to favor the longer hitters. And it's also going to be even more difficult on the shorter hitters that find the rough. The rough is 4 inches thick here, and when you add some moisture to it, it becomes even more difficult. And again, more difficult for shorter hitters. So I think now I did land on a couple of shorter hitters this week. Colin Morikawa, Will Zalatoris, and Sepp Straka. And they're not brutally short. They're still hitting it close to 300 yards, but they're not like some of the other guys on my card that would qualify as bombers. The one thing about Zalatoris, Straka, and Morikawa, they're all top 50 on the PGA Tour in total driving. And they're able to counteract a little bit of lack of distance with incredible accuracy. Zalatoris, I believe, is in the top 30 in accuracy on the PGA Tour. Colin Morikawa is second, and Sepp Straka is third. So, I think you're going to see guys that are long enough off the tee, but very accurate. And then guys that really bang it off the tee, have success at this golf course. They'll have to get hot with the putter for the week. I think the scoring in the end, guys, will be a little bit easier than what we saw last year at Oak Hill. The work around the greens, I don't think is going to be as difficult. You've got some of that thick rough, but you don't have those shaved runoff areas like we see at Augusta that really separate the men from the boys as far as creativity and touch. I think the chipping around the greens will be easier, and that'll allow guys to get up and down easier. So, I would expect a winning score maybe closer to 12 or 14 under par, unlike what we've seen out of recent PGA championships where it's been in single digits, 8, 9 under par. I think we could probably see this be 3 or 4 strokes better in terms of lower for a winning score.
Brady, we talked a lot about how we thought live players would do going into the Masters. I want to get your thought on how you think they will do in this one. And I see you do have a few of them as outright winners.
I do. Yeah, I went with 3 live players this week, Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, and Joaquin Niemann. And one thing that they all share in common is they're especially long off the tee and they're exceptional putters. So, and I mentioned, that was kind of the formula that we saw work at Valhalla in 2014. Heck, it's a good formula every week. It's kind of a rare combination. You don't often find a bomber that is also really good with the putter, and that's what those 3 guys have. I think the live circuit, for some reason, chicks dig the long ball, right, Alex? You know that. The Live Tour seems to have a lot of bombers. They've attracted some of the biggest hitters in the game with DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson and John Rahm and Joaquin Niemann. So, maybe that's the reason the guys made my card this week. I think it's also interesting. Now, I was on Niemann for the Masters as well, and he did pretty well. He finished 22nd, cost me a top 20 finish bet by missing the top 20 by 1 shot. But I think the guy has such a total game. He's been in tremendous form on the live circuit. He's won twice. He's finished top 10 4 times. Koepka just won a couple weeks ago in Singapore. And Bryson DeChambeau has 4 top 10s on the live circuit this year. Just comes off of a 6th place finish at the Masters, his best ever finish there. And these guys also have the benefit of not having to go against Scotty Scheffler week in and week out and becoming increasingly frustrated by the beatdown that Scotty puts on him every week. If you're a PGA Tour player like Wyndham Clark, my goodness, this guy's finished runner-up to Scotty like it seems 3 or 4 times this year. He just cannot get over the hump, along with all the other top players on the PGA Tour. So maybe the live players, because they're maybe more so immune to that, I don't know if it gives them a better chance, but it's a possible subjective part of the handicap anyway. I don't know if it's a real edge, but I think there could be some truth to it. I believe that Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, and Joaquin Niemann, with their A games, and maybe Xander Schauffele and Rory McIlroy and Colin Morikawa as well, with their A games, can all beat Scotty. But the live players, kind of being a little bit more immune to that beatdown that Scotty's been delivering for the past couple of months. Maybe they're because, out of sight, out of mind. We'll see if that we'll see if that has any legs this week in Louisville.
Brady, let's go to the non-live golfers on your card. Xander Schauffele is the best player without a major going right now. 14-1, the number that you had. Colin Morikawa, of course, has won a PGA championship back in 2020 in San Francisco at Harding Park. And then Willie Z, who, look, I know he's battled with health issues over the last year plus. You weren't expecting a 57-1 on Willie Z in 2024 in any major. And then, of course, Sepp Straka, your big long shot here this week.
Yeah, I think Xander is a little bit of a contrarian play, Jeff, because so many people are now down on him. What they saw last was him, quote unquote, blowing a 54-hole lead. He didn't really blow that. Rory blew the doors off of him. I mean, shooting a 65 on Sunday was just absolutely incredible. And Xander didn't play that poorly. He was better than most of the field. But we also saw it at the Players' Championship when Scotty came charging back and caught him. So Xander is kind of, somewhat unfairly earning that reputation that he's not able to close the deal. And it's not completely unfair because he hasn't done it in recent history. He has done it before, but what we've seen most recently is him fail to close the door. But I think the price is very fair. You got to believe that this guy is going to be in the mix once again. He's a top 5 player, maybe a top 3 player in the world. And you have to think eventually he's going to find a way to get across the finish line. And if he's in position to do so once again, and you're going to give me 14-1, I think that's pretty fair. And again, you know how it is in sports betting, Jeff. When 90% of the people are feeling one way, it's sometimes good to go the other way. And if 90% of the people think Xander is a loser and can't close the deal, then maybe it's a good time to be on him. We'll see how that works out. Now, I mentioned Brooks Koepka. A lot of people are on him, and I went with the masses on that. So there's a little bit of both sprinkled throughout the card this week. But as far as Willie Z, you mentioned 57. Boy, I thought, are you kidding me? I woke up on Monday morning and he was out to 80 or 90-1. He played beautifully the first 2 days at the Wells Fargo, which is a very good pointer course for Valhalla. Total driving, a very similar skill set is needed at a big boy golf course like Quail Hollow, similar to Valhalla. And he played wonderfully the first 2 days, was in contention, and then fell off over the weekend and ended up shooting 80 on Sunday. And maybe some people felt that the back was acting up. You mentioned his troubles with injury, for the past 16 months or so. I haven't really heard any reports about that. I couldn't believe the price got that high. It has come back down a little bit, but, back problems or not, this guy has been a machine in major championships, especially as far as top 10 finishes. And he's also got a couple of runner-ups, a runner-up at the U.S. Open, lost in a playoff at the PGA in 2022 to Justin Thomas. I mentioned the total driving. He's a tremendous iron player. And he just came off of his 3rd straight finish in the top 10 at the Masters. This guy is just a big game player, and I expect he's going to show up once again. Maybe I'm wrong and maybe the odds makers are right, but I didn't quite get the price on Willie Z. And I wholeheartedly, unless there is a real issue with the back, which I don't really expect there is, I expect to see the first 2 days what we saw at Wells Fargo. I expect to see more of the same. I wouldn't be surprised at all by a top 10 finish, and who knows, he might have a shot to win the thing. And then, like you say, with Straka, the long bomb, this guy is really becoming a major guy to deal with on the PGA Tour. He's got a couple of wins, one win at a Jack Nicklaus course, the Honda Classic in 2022 at PGA National. Nicklaus, of course, also designed Valhalla. He finished 16th at the Masters. He was 8th last week at Quail Hollow. I mentioned the connection there with Valhalla. He's finished 13th and 16th at Torrey Pines, another big boy major championship type venue. And he's also got a runner-up, by the way, at the British Open and finished 7th last year at the PGA Championship at Oak Hill, which I think is even probably a golf course that doesn't fit his game as well as Valhalla does. Straka, I mentioned, is deadly accurate off the tee. He's 3rd on the PGA Tour in driving accuracy. He's not a bomber. There's 3 guys on my card this week that are not bombers: Morikawa, Zalatoris, and Straka, but they still get it out there pretty good, and they're deadly accurate. And Straka, Jeff, I also think this also means something when you're trying to figure out a guy that is ready to win a major championship. Straka was a part of that winning Team Europe at the Ryder Cup this past fall. And being able to handle the pressure and the big stage like that, I think, is part of the resume you need when you go on to win a major. And Straka, of course, did that with Team Europe last fall. So he just continues to show that he is built for these type of situations and seems to be getting progressively better at doing so every time one of these comes around. So I think you can still find him at triple digits. I was lucky to get 125-1. I've seen as low as 75-1. Let's hope we at least get a top 20 finish, but you know how it is at all the majors, really. There's some outliers that show up on that first page of the leaderboard, and he could be one of them.
There's 2 guys I want to get your thoughts on now. They did not make your list, which I agree with, but Jon Rahm is being thrown out there a lot, and he just hasn't looked the same since he won that Masters last year and then moved to LIV. And then on the flip side, Jordan Spieth, quest for the Grand Slam. A lot of people are throwing him out there, but you don't think he's worth putting a little bit of money on?
I don't. Spieth would be more of a fade for me. I did not go against him in any head-to-head matchups. I couldn't find the right price or the right matchup, but I was looking, I was digging deep because I wanted to go against Jordan Spieth. I think the wrist issue is maybe more than he's letting on. We know it's in the back of his mind every time he tees it up. And that's a tough thing to deal with, not knowing when it's going to fail him or cause him pain or both. And so, Spieth has been erratic. I was on him for the Masters, and I think he's almost an auto bet for the Masters every year. He's probably the greatest Masters player we've seen in the last 10 years. And he came into that off of a top 10 finish the week before. So I was like, okay, Jordan's looking pretty good. And then, it was really kind of one hole that ended his Masters, but he just wasn't right. And he hasn't been really since then. So there's nothing I can really, hang my hat on that says, okay, he's ready again. And I think the world's waiting for Jordan to be ready again, and see him possibly, finish up the career Grand Slam there with a PGA. But no, is he going to miss the cut? I hope not, but I think it's possible. I'd be a little bit surprised to see him miss the cut in 2 straight major championships. And Spieth is a guy that's capable of doing just anything in a moment's notice as well. But no, I'm staying away from him. And like I say, if I was able to find the right situation, I would actually go against him. Jon Rahm, I'm not going against Rahm. It wouldn't surprise me if he contends at all. But like you say, Alex, something's just not quite right. And he's come out and said it himself, that he hasn't quite adjusted to the whole live environment, the rock and roll music and the casual nature and the shorts and 54 holes. I'm not sure if he even likes it. He probably likes the money that he got, and he's going to find a way to adjust. But he's also even come out and said that he's kind of ready for this PGA Live merger to happen. I think he likes the golf better on the PGA Tour. Obviously, he's very comfortable with the big paycheck he received, but and all of that just doesn't seem like he's quite right. I typically don't like betting on the defending champion, even though I'm on Koepka. I don't know if it matters that Koepka's the defending champion. He just wins these things, over and over again. Almost half of his career victories are majors. But I think for Rahm, it was different. And I think it's also different at the Masters. You have the Champions Dinner. I think there's more of a spotlight on the defending champion, who, by the way, had just switched to the Live circuit. So there was that going on. So I think it was a very tough situation for him at the Masters, and he was disappointing. The PGA has also been the worst major for him out of the 4. So, the price is pretty attractive at 20-1. And I wouldn't be surprised. He's got all the tools. But, a couple things. You can't pick them all. You got to, choose 6, 7, 8 guys or whatever out of 156. And he was not one of them. But the other thing is something there, maybe just subjectively for me, feels that he's not quite where he was when we saw him win the Masters and win the U.S. Open and be the Jon Rahm we're used to. At the same time, he's finished top 10 in every Live event this year. It is maybe a little bit concerning, out of 54 players, remember, that he hasn't won. So, yeah, just too many question marks with me, I guess, for Jon Rahm.
Brady, let's go to your full tournament head-to-head matchups here. You have 3 of them, and this one of them involves Joaquin Niemann, who you already have on your outrights card, and then 2 separate matchups where you are going after Live golfers in those 2 matchups.
Yeah, I took Denny McCarthy over Patrick Reed. I saw that number get a little bigger. I was able to get it at minus 120. I think it's okay to about minus 130. If you find less than that, I think that's a good price. But Patrick Reed, his game is not quite where it was where it was maybe 5 years ago when he won the Masters. He still plays well at the Masters and has done in consecutive years now since going over to the Live circuit. But the Masters is much different from a PGA championship, I believe. And Patrick Reed is not a bomber and can get a little squirrely with accuracy off the tee as well. And if you're not accurate and you're not long, then you're going to probably find some trouble at a PGA Championship layout. Now, we know he can putt and he's got a great short game, but that's the other thing. If you're relying on your short game to bail you out time and time again, that's going to wear on you over the course of even 2 or 4 days. So Patrick Reed was a go against for me, and McCarthy's been playing very, very well. You know, he was in that playoff against Akshay Bhatia not long ago, just had a very nice week at the Wells Fargo. So I think at a relatively short price, he's a good play over Reed. And then I took Willie Z, you know I like him, over Dustin Johnson. Johnson, you know, obviously on the back 9 of his career. He won here in Las Vegas early this season on the LIV season, but hasn't really done much since then. Didn't do much at the Masters. I think he missed the cut, if I recall properly. You know, the PGA should be a good fit for a guy like DJ, who is a bomber. And, you know, we've seen him contend in these things in the past. But I think the game has just changed a lot. His own game has changed a lot for Dustin Johnson, and he really hasn't contended in one of these things in quite a while. He made a little bit of noise for a minute and then faded quickly at Oak Hill last year, and maybe it'll be more of the same this year. So, and Willie Z obviously is a guy that I think will contend, even if DJ's okay. Maybe he finishes top 20. I still think Zalatoris will be better than him. And then another LIV guy that I'm going against in Cam Smith, who's kind of like a better version of Patrick Reed. He sprays it around off the tee, is not incredibly long, and has maybe the best short game in the world. And that's why we see him have success at Augusta. Augusta has those wide fairways where you can get away and no rough. So where you can get away with some errant drives on occasion. And then, of course, you need that wicked short game at Augusta. A wicked short game will help you anywhere, but I think the short game is going to be neutralized a little bit. I think chipping around the greens won't be as incredibly difficult this week. When you're errant off the tee this week, you're not going to find that cupcake rough at Augusta National. You're going to find 4-inch wet, nasty rough at Valhalla. So I just think the way their games are, Patrick Reed and Cameron Smith, that it might not work here this week. So, yeah, and of course, you know I love Joaquin Niemann, and it's a fairly big price at -150, and maybe it's gotten even more expensive. But you know, Niemann, Zalatoris, and McCarthy. McCarthy didn't make my outright card, but I wouldn't be surprised by a good week by him as well. And as much as I like those guys, I think it's a fade of the guys I'm going against as well.
He's Brady Kannon, again, on the tweets, at Las Vegas Golfer. Of course, you can find him all over the place this week. Sports Grid, he actually did a hit with our guy Danny Burke on Burke Speed. Brady, are you writing something up this week as well?
Yeah, as soon as I get finished here, I've got to dive into my article for the PGA Tour. We call this one the Prop Farm, and we like to speak with a lot of bookmakers and bettors and kind of find out what some of the popular bets are, what some of the contrarian bets are. But it can be very insightful as you make up your card, trying to read between the lines, who the public's on, who the sharps are on, you know, and take that as you will and move forward from there. That should be up a little bit later this afternoon. And then I'll also have my recap on Sunday afternoon after we hand the Wanamaker Trophy to somebody, a lucky winner this week. I'll have an account of that on PGAtour.com as well. And like you mentioned, Jeff, at the top, my article is already up at golf.com. Mm-hmm. So take a look, see what you think, and follow or fade, my friend.
Brady, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for hanging with us this morning.
You bet, guys. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you in another month for the U.S. Open.
Yes, we will.
Looking forward to
U.S. Open. Again, we are on this 1 month after another now with the new change with the PGA moving up a few years ago to the month of May. Pinehurst is where the U.S. Open is in June. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to hoops and hockey. Plenty to come. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
From the South Point Studio. The perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yes.
I am beautiful.
And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
And I look at the clock, I go, ah!
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. A lot of things happened yesterday. And starting with the NBA, the Knicks just destroy the Pacers in the second half, win by 30. They now have a 3-2 lead. And this series, Alex, as we've talked about all week, this series is destined to go 7 with the home team going 7-0. The Knicks are now in the series, a -240 favorite. They're a 5-point underdog on Friday. There's an extra day off in this series now. Only Minnesota and Denver tomorrow on the card. But for the Knicks, doing what they need to do and holding serve at home has been the name of the game in this series.
Looking pretty good for them. So winner of Game 5 in a best-of-7 series tied 2-2 is 82%. They finish out the series and win it. So I thought they looked fantastic. In Game 5, it's really important not to overreact. What we saw in Game 4 was not the same Knicks team. So I think they'll be okay. Not too far off from you. I think Pacers could win this next one at home, and we could go to a Game 7. But if we can see that defense that we did last night, they could finish it in 6.
Yeah, I think more so than anything, Indiana's effort, and Carlisle called this team out after the game. The effort was bad, especially in the second half. It just wasn't there. They got annihilated on the boards. I mean, Hartenstein almost had more rebounds than the Pacers did as a team last night. Just not a good enough effort. Hartenstein last night had 17 rebounds for the Knicks. Just not good enough. Not good enough from Indiana last night, and the Knicks took full advantage. I think the Pacers will be fine in Game 6 back in front of the home crowd. But again, I'm sticking with what I've said all along. There's no reason for me to back down at this point. And then in the nightcap last night, we saw an all-time great player do all-time great things last night. That was unbelievable from Nikola Jokic last night, where it's funny. A guy goes 47-13 last night, and I don't even think it justifies how well he played in the second half. Jokic was just absolutely dominant and had Rudy Gobert and the Timberwolves in hell last night, for lack of a better word. And the Nuggets, really, remember, that was a close game at halftime. Timberwolves actually hit them with a 7-0 run to begin the second half to take a lead and force the Michael Malone timeout. But Jokic was just unbelievably dominant last night, showing why he's the best in the game. And the Nuggets, who were in an 0-2 hole, are now -475 favorites to close this thing out either in Game 6 or Game 7. Tomorrow, they are a small underdog on the road in Minneapolis. Alex, I've been wrong all the way through in this series, so I'm just going to stay the heck away from Game 6. But it would be very surprising at this point if Minnesota could get off the mat and even get this one at home in Game 6 at this point.
Well, luckily, thanks to you, we do have Minnesota plus 1.5 games in this series. So
well, they need Game 6 now,
yeah,
Alex.
Yes, they do. But I mean, at least we're hanging in there, because it was we were talking about going, I don't know, taking the Timberwolves after those first two games, but we just stuck with that one bet. But yeah, he looked so dominant, just like we saw last year in 2023. And no turnovers. I think that was the biggest thing for me because we've really seen him struggle, especially in this series with Minnesota's defense. We've seen a lot of turnovers from the Joker and absolutely none yesterday.
I still just can't get over that performance from Jokic last night. And for Denver, look, this is when you have championship resolve, this type of stuff can happen. For Minnesota, at a bare minimum, this is a great learning experience. Now, not going to feel great if you blow an 0-2 lead with a winning bolt in Denver to kick off the series. But it definitely does some interesting things moving forward. In the association tonight, we mentioned both of these games in the starting five. I don't want to spend much time on Boston and Cleveland. It's 15.5 tonight. Celtics at home, 204.5 the total. Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, and Karis LeVert all did not participate in the morning shoot-around today. There's almost no way we see Allen. It would be a surprise, to put it lightly, on Mitchell. LeVert with a bone bruise possible. I think he's the most likely of the three to be in the game tonight. But for Cleveland, look, they were overmatched to begin with. Now you take out three of their six best players. Forget it. This would be a shocker if Cleveland could pull the outright at plus 850 on the money line. Just a matter of, does Boston cover to 15.5 right now, Alex? And I'm going to just stay out of it. But I would be surprised. I would not be shocked if this is one of those 30-burger games and this is just an outright destruction tonight to end the series.
Even with these huge spreads that we have seen with the Celtics through these first two series, they are 6-3 against the spread. Of course, Miami and Cavs each stole game two, and then Cleveland covered the last game. But I'm with you. I would only bet Boston. I'm going to look for a first half, though. I think that they'll really come out strong, have a good lead in that first half, the Celtics, that is. And then I'm not going to have to worry so much about the second half and the backdoor cover for the Cavs.
Yeah, this series has kind of played out exactly how we thought. Boston no-showed one game, like they did against Miami, and the rest has been pretty much, even though they didn't cover game four, this has pretty much been all Boston this whole series, other than that game two. Now to know something a little more interesting, Oklahoma City, Dallas. So it's interesting seeing the breakdown here, including behind us. I would say the sharper books here in Vegas have all moved to 4.5. Here, Superbook, Circa, the sharper books are all at 4.5. There are still a bunch of fours sitting out there in this game. 213 behind us. There's some 212.5 on the total out there as well. I think this is one of those, Alex. I don't love laying a money line price in a game that's this even, but I think I would rather lay the $1.75 on Oklahoma City than lay the points here. I like them to get the job done, but I'm not sure that this is more than a possession game tonight. I would much rather lay the money line on OKC, risk the extra juice tonight as opposed to just laying the 4.5.
I'm with you. I did take the Thunder minus 165 on the money line
Much
just
better,
to
yep.
avoid the points here. But look at last night. I mean, every series is different, of course, but last night we liked both home teams, stuck with the money line. Both teams covered there in that one. And I also think the books are telling you something. I mean, Thunder $1.55 to win the series now. Opposed to last night, the Knicks, I mean, you're getting plus money. So I know there's injuries, but not a lot of faith in New York to finish that series compared to OKC here in this one. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Mavs did steal one because we have seen the best and the worst of them throughout this playoffs. So if we get the best Luka, I mean, of course they can win, but I would rather stick with the more consistent team at home.
Of all the road teams left, Dallas is clearly the one who's most equipped
Correct.
to win win a road game left in this series, in any of the series. Again, I like Indiana. Well, not including Denver, non-Denver division. Indiana, I like to win game 6, Knicks to win game 7. Boston closes it out tonight. I would lean Oklahoma City just winning this game outright as opposed to laying some points in this one. Alex, you want to do? You have anything on the WNBA tonight in the action that is going? We have on the card 2 games tonight. The 4 teams that did not play yesterday. The Wings are 8 against the Sky. The Dream are 5 on the road in Long Beach against the Sparks.
Caitlin Clark almost got there. She had 20 points.
Yeah,
Of course, there was some garbage points at the end.
That would have been ridiculous if she had got over the point total.
Yes, it would have.
Night.
And 10 turnovers, so it was a little bit of a tough debut for her. But looking at tonight's card, I think both spreads are right. They match my numbers very closely here. I did go over 159.5 with the Dream at Sparks game, which is now sitting at 160 here. I wouldn't get too crazy, though, because Atlanta, defensive-minded head coach, we saw them play relatively good defense last season. I just made that number about 5 points higher than that 160, so I'll adjust after that and see how it goes. Tread lightly at the beginning here because, I even said yesterday with Seattle, I really liked them. But it takes time for the continuity and everything with the new players together. They were the one favorite that did not win, actually, last night. So underdogs went 3-1 and totals went 3-1 to the under.
I would only take the Sparks tonight. That would be the only thing I'd even remotely look at. Again, just going through everything, these 1 and 2, as we talked about yesterday, 1 and 2 clearly above everyone else. Then I think there's a gap to 3 and 4, which is Seattle and Connecticut. Then there's a gap to Dallas, who's 5. And then after that, just throw everyone in a hat and whatever order comes out 6 through 12 would the Mystics and the Sparks look worse than the other few teams. But any other order 6 through 12 wouldn't stun me. There'd be some surprises, but there wouldn't be anything overly stunning if we got any sort of order there. Let's go to hockey. One game tonight. The Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. We'll get the other games that happened last night in a second, but let's just get tonight's game here since Florida and Boston have a few days off right now, and Vancouver and Edmonton continues to just be a very ridiculous series. Colorado's plus 120, Stars minus 140, 6.5 the total. Alex, I just can't believe how the Nanushkin news, basically, that was it. The Avs looked like a team that had the life completely sucked out of them in Game 4. Yes, Dallas is awesome. They're the best team in the Western Conference. They look like the best team in the Western Conference after surviving that series against the Knights in round 1. But I would expect a little bit of a better effort tonight from Colorado. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be good enough to win the game, but I don't think this is going to be a wipeout like we saw the 2 games in Denver go towards Dallas in those 2 road wins.
I agree with that. And I can't do anything on the side here. I have Dallas about 20 cents better than the Avs. Add in the home ice there, you're about at minus 150, so no real value for me. Of course, there's the revenge and the desperation. So if you like that 120 with Colorado, I don't blame you for that at all. I also made the total 6.5, but I still bet this under. I think we're really going to see it tighten up, and that's where I think we're going to see a better effort from the Avalanche and especially their defensemen. So I went ahead and bet under 6.5 in this one.
Under 6.5. For Alex tonight on the Stars and the Lanch. Dallas 3-1 lead, trying to wrap things up and get some time off with it looking like the Canadian series between Vancouver and Edmonton is going to go. I could very easily go to distance at this point. But look, for Dallas, they have. I picked them to win the West going in. You picked them to win the West, right? Going into the postseason, looking pretty good on those right now. Last night, don't worry, we'll have a full preview of Rangers Canes tomorrow. Canes still $1.60 favorite in that one for Thursday. Edmonton and Vancouver, just when you think this series can't get any more ridiculous, it does. Vancouver looked like in a game where Arthur Silovs was awesome for the most part last night. Looked like they were going to have an opportunity to get late goal in regulation with the empty net. All right, going to get this game to overtime. All the pressure's on Edmonton. Vancouver can play pretty loose, and if they steal the game, they're up 3-1 heading home. But Evan Bouchard, with under a minute to go, 2 goals in about 55 seconds to tie the game-tying one for Vancouver and a game-winning one for Edmonton. Bouchard, with his second gigantic goal of this postseason, gets Edmonton the win and knots this series at 2. And Alex, all I'm going to say is That series price at plus 175 on Vancouver looks pretty darn good to take a shot on at this point because I just don't trust Edmonton. That's all this is. They're clearly the better team, but their goaltending has been suspect, to say the very least. And Sealovs, the last 2 games at least, has been really good. Not good enough last night because Vancouver's done what they've done all postseason and just not created enough opportunities on offense. But that plus 175 seems like, all right, you know what? Take a shot. If the better team wins out, so be it.
So if you include the regular season games, Vancouver is now 6-2 against the Oilers. So they have had their number all year. It's been a very tough matchup here. And Demko has been practicing. He's taken some shots. We may even see him in this series. I don't hate that at all, Jeff. I think that's a great price to grab the Canucks at a tied up series too. It's not like they are 1 game back. So plus 175, I'm with you. And Vancouver, we know not a lot of offensive opportunities, but they play great defense, and they are a very good third period team.
This series has been all over the map, which means anything's in play. Welcome to the Stanley Cup playoffs. The other one last night, credit to Boston. Swayman was great last night. Bruins win in Sunrise 2-1. Swayman last night, 28 saves. It felt like a lot more opportunities than that, but only 29 shots on net for Florida last night. Alex, I'll just ask you, how willing are you on this to possibly take a shot on Boston at 5-1 to win this series? They're plus 125 underdogs in Game 6. That game is on Friday, so a few days off for both of these teams. Maybe enough time to get Marchand back on the ice, who missed Game 5 last night after taking that punch in Game 4.
I mean, it is tempting because Boston is a pretty star-powered team. Like you said, we might get Marchand back, but ultimately, I think Florida is the better team, and they do end up winning this series. Bobrovsky has been good enough. Like you said, we never know which version, but I think he's been very good against the Bruins in this series, so I wouldn't go against him now, even though Boston has kind of opened something up here now. And Swayman looks comfortable again.
He looks much better. Been much better the last 2 games. Again, those 2 just disasters in Game 2 and 3 for Boston. But look, in the end, still think Florida, as we said before, Florida the better team. Now, this would be the reverse of last year where Boston was clearly the better team, had a 3-1 lead and blew it.
Yes.
It would be the reverse here if Florida were to lose this series on that note. All right, we'll take one last break. When we get back, we'll look at the baseball card here for a Wednesday, a full card. There's actually already one game underway in Baltimore because of the rain yesterday. We'll talk about them all next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style Paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3-2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Coming up at noon, Punchlines with Frank Nicotero. Hopefully there will be no studio damage today on the show. Ryan McCormick hoping as well. I mean, that was, even by Frank's standards, Alex, I mean, that was just, it was obvious it was going to happen once you put a golf club in his hand in front of that. No awareness whatsoever of where he is, and just massacres the poor television monitor that was just sitting there.
I don't want to put the blame on anyone else, but nobody else realized how close he was either with a golf club, how dangerous that was.
That sounds like you've been commandeered by Frank to put the blame elsewhere, Alex.
I know I haven't, but yeah, that was not good. Not good at all.
You'll be on the show as well this aftoon.
I will be there to try and keep things.
Yeah, I will say, Ryan, as a producer, you should be aware of the lack of what's the right word I can say this here without coming off as a jerk. I'll go with the lack of spatial awareness from the host on that. I'll just go with that.
I think that was
not
good.
putting
Good
it on,
choice of words.
Not putting it on you entirely because Frank has got to know where he is. I mean,
Correct.
But that poor monitor lived a good life, and now it's all over for that monitor. But shout out to Jerry for getting a new monitor in there very quickly.
Yes, he did.
They're doing a great job as always. All right, baseball today. You and I know. By the way, I actually got a baseball pick right yesterday, which was a shocking upset in its own right.
Pretty easy winner.
After the home run in the first inning, it was a no sweater.
Yeah.
Yankees win that one 5-1 against the Twins, who they own, as I forgot to mention in part of the handicap yesterday. We know the ownage the Yankees have had over Minnesota over the years. The only thing I even am remotely thinking about tonight is the over in the Cardinals and the Angels game, which sits at 8.5. I know that the Cardinals offense has been an abomination for the most part this year, but they've come alive in Anaheim this week. And the Angels, they're 15-28, but they're really bad. Now that Mike Trout is on the shelf, it has been a mess for them. And their pitching is also imploded on top of it, which is a very bad mix of things for the Angels, Alex.
Yes, it is. And I was trying to stick up for them because they were hanging in there even without Mike Trout. But the last week or so, it has been definitely a miss. Don't look now, Jeff, but we haven't talked about the White Sox. Strung a few wins together there. They 5-2 in their past 7 games. And this is a common pitcher you like to bet against, isn't it? With the Nationals.
Corbin, I look, the Nats are playing some good baseball right now. Even though yesterday, doubleheader split. Eric Fetty's been pretty darn good recently for the White Sox, so keep that at least in the back of your mind. It's $1.60 with the White Sox. Come on.
I know.
Come
That's
on.
brutal.
If you do that, you just you don't like it. Forget. Look, could they win a game? Of course they could, but you're not going to be an enjoyable betting experience if you're doing that to yourself. If you're laying $1.60 with the White Sox, even with a pitching advantage here today, because Crochet has been great of late and striking out a ton of batters against Corbin here in that one this afternoon. And then, I mean, the only other thing I would even remotely look at, Alex, is I would look at the under in the Mets and the Phillies. The Mets just can't hit right now. Ranger Suarez has been awesome. He's been arguably the best pitcher in the National League to begin the year. Sub-2 ERA, hasn't lost yet. Joey Lucchesi brought up from AAA Syracuse to make the start for the Mets tonight. Mets lost that ridiculous game on Monday, got 3 hit yesterday by the Phillies. Would lean to the under in this one, even with that ballpark in Philadelphia. Alex.
What about just the Mets team total?
Well, what do you got on that? 2.5?
3.5.
Yeah, I would go under that. That's
probably the better
way. I meant
way.
to say 3.5. That's not a bad one either. With how Suarez has been, and the Mets just are not hitting right now. All right.
Recap of our.
Before we go, Alex, PGA Championship for us, of course. If you missed it yesterday, Barry Phillips and CJ Schmid here did your PGA Championship preview. That's available on the YouTube page. Brady Kannon also joined us at the beginning of the show for his breakdown this week in Valhalla. I only have one bet. I bet Colin Morikawa to win at 30-1. That is the only bet I have in pocket. I reserve the right to add a few more over the next 19 hours or so, Alex. Alex?
I actually have the same golfer as you this week, and I was going for the consistency, the accuracy, listening to a lot of people talking about the long ball and everything, but I did put a few in the top 10.
Okay.
So I do have Bryson DeChambeau to finish top 10. I do have Brooks Koepka to finish top 10, and I may add Xander Schauffele, of course. Schauffele.
Yeah.
Because he is, he's a great player to put in that top 10.
He's consistent, and he doesn't win these tournaments. So that's just the way it's broken down for Schauffele. It was a bunch of second-place finishes, but still not busted through and won a major so far. Alex, just a recap of what you got today.
Recap of what I have today. So I do have over 159.5 for the Dream and Sparks game. Thunder minus 155. Celtics first half, I haven't found that yet. I'm going to. Under 6.5 for the Avs Stars.
There you go. That's what Alex has today. Only thing I'm really looking at that I have in pocket at the moment, again, those baseball ones will more likely than not take that Met team total instead of the full game under in that one. And then Sparks plus the points tonight. No problem with that. And then again, just looking at the over in the Angels and the Cardinals game at 8.5. One of the only ways that I look at it. All right. That's all we got for you today. Ryan McCormick going to be leading the charge with Frank Nicotero on Punchlines today. You're there. Jacqueline Marfugi, right, today? Very nice. Second appearance for her in studio as well. So she'll be joining Alex and Frank at noon on Punchlines. We'll see you again. We have a full hour tomorrow, which is good. Danny Burke will be with us on the show tomorrow at 9 a.m. Alex, good work as always. Caden, Sean, thank you, as always. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again tomorrow. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.